I sent a pic of myself in a cute schoolgirl outfit, showing off my fair skin and tiny waist, to my best friend, but I accidentally sent it to her rich kid brother instead. "Hey babe, am I hot or what?" He paused for a moment before replying, "Are you trying to seduce me?" I thought my bestie was just gassing me up, calling me a total knockout. So the next day, I dolled myself up in the same outfit and went over to her house. But the second I got there, her brother dragged me into his room, his hands gripping my waist. "You little tease. You really came all the way to my house to seduce me? Seriously. What is wrong with this guy?" The new schoolgirl uniform I bought really made my chest look bigger and my waist look smaller. I immediately snapped a mirror selfie and sent it to my best friend. "Hey babe, am I hot or what?" I could see the typing bubble pop up on the other end. While I waited for her to reply, I fired off a few more messages. "Honestly, I really like this outfit, but the buttons on the chest are a little tight. I seriously feel like they're going to pop off. Maybe I should get the bust altered." I saw that the is typing notification was still there. I asked, "Babe, what's taking you so long to reply?" Finally, a message came through, "Are you trying to seduce me?" My best friend's favorite compliment for me was always that I was seductive and looked like a little vixen. I figured she was just hyping me up like usual, so I didn't think much of it. I replied, "Be a good girl and wait for me at home tomorrow." After sending it, I took the outfit to the tailor to get the bust adjusted. The next day, I curled my hair into big waves and strutted over to my best friend's house in my perfectly fitting outfit. My best friend, Kathy, is an amazing photographer, and I was determined to get some great shots today. I happily rang the doorbell. When the housekeeper, Mrs. Davis, opened the door, I saw Kathy's brother, Louis, sitting on the sofa. This guy, the heir to the family fortune, was a bit of an enigma. He was incredibly handsome, but he didn't drink, smoke, or go to clubs. Instead, he was into street racing and extreme sports, rock climbing, scaling snow-capped mountains, you name it. He did everything thrilling and dangerous except for dating, and he was rarely ever home. Kathy used to complain to me that she was afraid he'd end up dead in the wilderness someday. I didn't know him well, so I just gave him a polite smile. Just as I was about to head upstairs to find Kathy, Louis shot up from the sofa and strode towards me. Without a word, he pulled me into his room and locked the door behind us. I stared at him, completely bewildered. "How could you come to my house to seduce me?" His eyes scanned me from my feet all the way up, finally stopping at. I clutched my chest. His face suddenly turned red, all the way to the tips of his ears. He cleared his throat awkwardly and asked, "Did you get the size altered?" I slapped him right across the face. "You creep." I turned to leave, but he grabbed my wrist and pinned me against the door. "Don't move. Let go of me." In the middle of the struggle, the top button of my shirt burst open. Suddenly, everything was on display. Louis froze, just staring. A shriek echoed through the mansion, startling the birds on the eaves. Hearing my scream, my best friend Kathy came running downstairs, banging on her brother's door. "Sweetie, are you okay?" "Louis, what are you doing with Melody in your room with the door locked?" "Melody, don't worry, I'll go get the key from Mrs. Davis." When Kathy finally opened the door and saw the scene in front of her, she froze for a good long while. By the time she snapped out of it, a scream was already escaping her throat. She took off her jacket and covered me with it, crying as she tried to explain. "Melody, this has to be a misunderstanding. You know my brother, he doesn't mess around with girls. Louis, you have to explain this to Melody. Now." I clutched the jacket, squatting on the floor, my shoulders trembling as I whimpered, "Your brother is a pervert. He assaulted me." Louis looked exasperated. He pulled out his phone, his voice tinged with helplessness. "Look at this chat history. Didn't she start it first? And the whole reason I brought her into my room to talk was to avoid any misunderstandings. As for her button, that was a complete accident." With tears in my eyes, I looked pitifully at Kathy. Your profile picture is Hello Kitty. I thought I was texting you. I just wanted to ask if you like my new outfit. And besides, why would he suddenly change his profile picture to Hello Kitty anyway? Even if it was all a misunderstanding, Louis, you saw everything. You have to take responsibility. Louis's eyes lowered, and he didn't refuse. He pulled a card out of his wallet and handed it to me. I've never dated before, so I don't really know how to make a girlfriend happy. This is my allowance for the month. It's not much, just $1 million. Take it and buy yourself an apology gift. Don't worry, when I get my allowance next month, I'll give it to you, too. He asked gently, how does that sound? Girlfriend? I didn't say anything, which he took as a yes. Louis sighed and patted Kathy's shoulder. I was definitely reckless today. I don't think she wants to see me right now. I'm going to go meet up with some friends. You should comfort her. After Louis left, Kathy and I looked at each other and smiled. Melody, your acting is incredible. Your damsel in distress look was so convincing, even I felt bad for you. I stood up and slapped the bank card in my hand triumphantly. We have a deal. I'll reel your brother in and date him so he has no time or money for his dangerous hobbies. But all the money he gives me is mine. Of course, it's all yours. Kathy linked her arm with mine. You're definitely not getting the short end of the stick here. My brother is a total clueless jock. All his friends are either watching videos of hot girls or chasing them. At the very least, they all have a one that got away. But my brother? He knows nothing about romance. His phone is just filled with videos of expeditions, rock climbing, and racing. If you're with him, he'll just dumbly give you money and won't even know how to take advantage of you. Things have been tough for you since your family went bankrupt. If you string him along for 6 months or a year, you'll have enough money to study abroad. Then you won't have to work so hard when you get there. Neither Kathy nor I knew that Louis had come back to grab his jacket and was standing right outside the door, hearing every single word. That evening, Louis called and asked me out. I figured he was still clueless. The most he'd do was hold my hand. I arrived at the presidential suite he sent me the location for, and Louis walked out of the bathroom. I have to admit, he was tall with long legs, and he looked pretty damn sexy in a white bathrobe. With one hand, Louis untied his bathrobe and used the belt to tie my hands. I froze for a second. But I still managed to keep my voice soft and delicate. What are you doing, tying me up? His expression was dark as he pulled me by the hand towards the bed. My eyes widened in horror when I saw what was on the bed. Black tape, lace, bunny ears, and even a whip and candles. He suddenly pushed me down on the bed, his long fingers tracing my lips. I trembled instinctively, like a frightened little rabbit. What are you going to do? What do you think? We're going to do what a boyfriend and girlfriend are supposed to do. Otherwise, I just look like an idiot. With a burst of strength, he lifted my hips and sealed my mouth with the tape. I tried to speak, but I couldn't. He held down my struggling legs and kissed my neck, moving to my ear to whisper hotly, "What was that?" I can't hear you. Your tear-streaked face. It's really turning me on. He deliberately lifted my skirt, slowly. Inch by inch, he watched me tremble in fear. Meeting my tear-filled eyes, he let out a cold laugh. Weren't you trying to hook me? What are you so scared of? My face flushed bright red, and I squeezed out a few tears. Scared my ass. He was handsome, rich, and had a great body. I was the one who was going to enjoy this. What was there for me to be scared of? The problem was, something was poking into my back. It was so uncomfortable. I wanted to roll over and move, but he had me pinned down tight, and my mouth was still taped shut. Louis saw my teary-eyed expression and, assuming I was terrified, he smirked with satisfaction. It's no use being scared. This is the price you pay for lying to me. He was all talk and no action. I seriously doubted he even knew what he was doing. I was trying to play along, figuring he'd let me change positions if I just endured it for a bit, but he just kept rambling on with the foreplay. I couldn't take it anymore. I untied the loosely knotted bathrobe belt from my wrists and ripped the tape off my mouth. If I hadn't been trying to play along with his little scene, I would have been free ages ago. I grabbed him by the collar and pulled him in for a kiss. Up close, his eyes widened in shock. In an instant, his neck turned completely red. I broke the kiss and coached him, breathe. I was afraid he was going to suffocate. Kathy was right. He really was an innocent, straight-laced guy who knew absolutely nothing about sex. He was aroused by my lead, his breathing growing heavier. I wrapped my arms around his neck and gave him a sultry smile. Beg me. Beg me and I'll help you. He stared at my lips, his eyes dark with desire, his voice low and hoarse. I'm begging you. The next morning, I looked in the mirror and frowned. Did he think he was a dog? He left bite marks all over me. Louis, still lying in bed, lazily pulled me into his arms and planted a gentle kiss on my forehead. Stay with me today, okay? Once you get a taste of some things, you get addicted. See? He was already choosing the comforts of my arms over extreme sports and racing. I snuggled into his chest, my voice feigning an extreme, fluttery coyness. But honey, I have to go to class. Besides, you already know I lied to you. I managed to squeeze a single tear from my eye and sniffled through my reddened nose. I don't deserve to be with you, even though I really, really love you. I was just worried about you, scared you'd get hurt doing all those dangerous sports. That's why Kathy and I had to lie to you. I was never after your money. I know, Louis said, stroking the reddened corner of my eye. I don't blame you. It's just because you love me so much that you went about it the wrong way. Even so, I said, I can't face being with you. The $1 million he gave me was enough for me to study abroad. I had only ever planned on scamming him once. Louis, for all his innocence and slowness when it came to romance, was still the heir to the Smiths. He grew up in a world of wealth and power, he could be ruthless. What if he got tired of me and decided to come after me for revenge? It would be over. I'd already received my acceptance letter from a university overseas and had to leave soon. Besides, Louis's $1 million wasn't a total loss. I did teach him a thing or two, after all. I bit my lip, my eyes misty. Honey, you deserve better. You don't have to take responsibility for me. Let's just pretend last night never happened. Louis's gaze hardened. He gripped my chin. Melody, are you playing me? Are you just like all those other girls? You got what you wanted, slept with me, and now you want to just walk away? That was my first time. I blinked my big, round eyes, playing dumb. I don't know what you're talking about, honey. I stood up. If there's nothing else, I'll be going. I'm going to be late for class. He sneered at my retreating back, raising his voice deliberately. You don't care, and neither do I. You think I actually give a damn? If I ever call you again, I'm a dog. Time flew by, and 2 months passed in the blink of an eye. Kathy called me. Melody, when are you coming back? I'm so not used to you being gone. I just got here. If you miss me, just buy a plane ticket and come visit. Think of it as a vacation. I won't have much time to hang out, though. Besides classes, I have to work. Kathy sighed on the other end. If you had just gotten with my brother for real, you wouldn't have to worry about money. But seriously, thank you. Ever since we tricked him 2 months ago, he's completely stopped doing all those extreme sports. It's just... Kathy paused. He's gone from one extreme to another. He never used to be on his phone, but now he's glued to it. He checks it constantly, over and over again. I have no idea what he's looking at. I scoffed to myself. What else could he be looking at? He was stalking my social media accounts every day, leaving comments from a burner account. I'd post, "The food here is so gross." He'd reply from his burner, serves you right. Then he'd immediately switch to his main account and post a 9-photo grid of delicious food with the caption, "So much good food back home." I'd post, "Working and studying is exhausting. I wish I could get rich overnight. I'm so sick of being broke." He'd reply from the burner, "You wouldn't know what to do with wealth even if you had it." Then he'd immediately switch to his main, go to the bank, take a picture of a huge pile of cash, and post it with the caption, "So much money I don't know what to do with it." I knew the burner account was him, but I never called him out on it. The great heir of the Smiths had his pride, after all. Being on his phone is better than rock climbing and sleeping on cliff sides every day, I said. "Kathy, I have to get back to work. I'll call you later. I'll come see you when I'm back for the holidays." There was another international student working part-time at the same restaurant as me. His name was Leo. He said he was a scholarship student, just like me. He was really nice and always shared snacks that his family sent from back home. If I hadn't been a former rich girl myself, I might have fallen for it. But his watch was worth over $1 million, and even his shirts were custom-made. I understood what a rich kid like him was doing working a part-time job, but it wasn't my business, so I never asked. We were just strangers in a strange land, each on our own journey. In the break room, he wiped his fair, slender hands and offered me a pastry from a box. "Try this. It's a cloud pastry back home." This kid wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. A basic box of pastries costs thousands. The cloud pastry was their specialty, costing over $10,000 for a box of just 4. Back when my family wasn't bankrupt, my dad used to love buying them for my mom. I pretended not to know and graciously accepted the pastry, thanking him politely. Just as I was about to eat it, he took one too and said softly, "Can we take a picture together? You don't look a gift horse in the mouth." I tucked a strand of hair behind my ear and smiled. Of course. We took a selfie holding the pastries. He asked politely, "Is it okay if I post it on my social media?" I was a little surprised. Of course. It's not like I'm a celebrity or anything. He smiled warmly. "In my eyes, you're more beautiful than any celebrity." Just as he said that, our boss came to call me back to work, so I didn't quite hear him. I popped the whole pastry in my mouth and mumbled, "I gotta get back to work." A few days after Leo posted our photo, Kathy called me out of the blue. It was the middle of the night back home. "Melody, it's bad. I don't know what set my brother off, but he went street racing and got into an accident." My breath caught in my throat. "How is he? Is it serious?" "He's in the hospital. He's not in any major danger, though." I breathed a sigh of relief. "As long as he's okay." Kathy's voice was heavy over the phone. "Melody, the main thing is, I don't know what's wrong with him. He's just lost. He's lying in his hospital bed, not eating or drinking. The doctors say he needs nutrients, but he refuses to eat. We can't persuade him, he just ignores us. If this keeps up, his body won't be able to take it. I didn't want to tell you, but I heard him calling your name in his sleep. He was mumbling something about you getting with someone else and that you really don't want him anymore. Please come back and talk to him. I'm begging you. Kathy is my best friend." For her to ask, to beg me like that. It seemed I had no choice but to go back. As soon as I landed, Kathy rushed me to the hospital. In the car, she ranted furiously. "Melody, you have no idea what's been going on these past few months. Remember I told you about Jessica, the manager at the racing club? She's always in her racing suit, acting like one of the guys with my brother, saying stuff like, 'Bros for life, anyone who gets a girlfriend is a dog,' as if she's not a woman herself. A few days ago, my brother saw a photo and started acting really weird. I was there, but I was too far away to see what was on his phone. Jessica glanced at his screen, then clapped him on the shoulder and said something like, 'It's just a breakup. Girls are like clothes, but bros are forever.' She kept saying how his bro would always be there for him. She knew he wasn't in the right state of mind, but she still dragged him out to race. After the crash, his forehead was covered in blood, but he didn't even seem to feel it. He was like a ghost. Now that he's in the hospital, Jessica has the perfect excuse to hover. She's in his room all the time. I get a headache just looking at her. After Kathy's long list of complaints, we arrived at Louis's hospital room. Through the glass window on the door, I saw Louis's tall frame lying on his side on the bed. His handsome face was as pale as paper, his eyes empty and vacant, staring into space. A woman with long hair, dressed in a motorcycle jacket, stood beside him. That must be the Jessica that Kathy was talking about. She casually punched Louis on the arm. Look at you, acting like you're about to die. It's just one woman. A girl who gets that cozy with another guy obviously has no self-respect. I frowned. What century is she living in, still talking about a woman's virtue? Did she wrap her feet so tight it affected her brain? At the same time, I was curious. From what she was saying, it sounded like Louis was upset because a girl he liked got close to another guy, and that's why he was so dejected he wouldn't eat or drink. Did he start dating someone after I left? Inside the room, Louis's face turned cold. He looked at Jessica with disgust. Get out. His face was already dark, but Jessica continued indignantly, when I find that bitch, I'll beat her up for you to get your revenge. Louis's dark eyes glared at her fiercely. I don't hit women. Don't make me start. She scoffed. It's just a woman. Can't your bro even say anything? What, you're going to fall out with your bro over some used goods? I finally understood why Kathy hated her so much. Louis gritted his teeth, his face growing darker and darker. Just as he raised his hand to strike Jessica, Kathy kicked the door open and beat him to it, slapping Jessica across the face. I have had it with you. You're always putting other women down. What, are you not a woman yourself? Always going on about, bro. If you want to be a man so bad, why don't you go to Thailand and get the surgery? Why even bother with long hair and heavy makeup? Don't think I don't know what you're trying to do by hanging around my brother. He's a clueless guy, he might not see it, but you think I'm blind? You dress all edgy, hang out with a bunch of guys to make yourself seem different from other girls, and then wait for a drunken night to crawl into my brother's bed. You're a classic, pick-me girl. Kathy turned to me, fuming. Melody, make my brother kick her out. I don't want to see her. Hearing the name Melody, Louis's heart suddenly skipped a beat. He turned his head and looked at me, standing in the doorway. He thought he was hallucinating and even rubbed his eyes. I tucked a strand of hair behind my ear and greeted him with a small smile. Louis, long time no see. Louis stared at me for a moment, stunned, before turning his face away coldly. He was clearly trying to look angry, but the corner of his mouth secretly curled into a smile. What are you doing back here? Did you hear that? My bro doesn't want to see you. Get lost. The moment Jessica finished speaking, Louis's cold voice cut in. I was talking to you. Get out. I don't get it. I just have a membership at your club. Why are you haunting me like a ghost? It's bad enough you can't read a customer's mood, but you also have a mouth full of crap. I walked over to Louis and sat down in the chair by his bed, resting my chin in my hands. Louis, you're so mean now. You should be a little gentler with girls. Jessica pointed at me, furious. Louis, wake up. She's a little schemer. Trust me, I'm a good judge of character. I blinked at her innocently. Yeah, I am. What are you going to do about it? You. Jessica was so angry she was speechless. Why are you still here? Louis growled at her. Jessica couldn't bear the humiliation any longer and stormed out of the room. After she left, I opened the thermos on the table and ladled out a bowl of chicken soup. Louis, I heard you were hurt and weren't eating. I was so worried. Can I feed you something? He scoffed quietly. You were worried about me? I bet you forgot all about me. I had no idea what his passive-aggressive comment was about. Maybe Kathy was mistaken. Maybe the person he wanted to see wasn't me at all, but a new girlfriend he started seeing after I left. I asked, "Louis, are you dating someone? Do you want to see your girlfriend? If you're too embarrassed to call her, you can give her number to Kathy and have Kathy ask her to come over." Hearing this, Louis's long fingers clenched into a fist, his knuckles cracking as if he was about to lose control. "You think I'm as heartless as you? I just find someone new right away." I was stunned. When did I find someone new? Did the car crash mess with his brain? Or maybe he was having trouble with his girlfriend and was taking it out on me? I put the soup bowl down. "Fine, if you're not going to drink it, I'll just leave." The next second, Louis grabbed my hand tightly. "I'll drink it. When did I say I wouldn't?" He sounded desperate, as if he was afraid I would actually leave. Seeing this, Kathy started to laugh. Louis shot Kathy a look, and she instantly understood, quickly leaving and closing the door behind her. As I fed Louis the soup, he stared at me without blinking. "Is there something on my face?" His voice was a whisper, so quiet only he could hear it. "I'm just afraid you'll disappear again." I had a feeling that something was different about Louis this time. He was in a hospital gown, looking listless and worn out, with a thin layer of stubble on his chin. I said, "Louis, girls don't like messy guys. If you want to win back the person you like, you have to take care of your appearance. I don't care what she likes." Despite his words, Louis got up, grabbed a change of clothes, and went into the bathroom to shower. Such a proud man, always saying one thing and doing another. When he came out, I was getting sleepy. Hearing the sound, I looked up at him and froze. He had shaved, and his handsome face looked fresh and clean. His hair was still wet, and he was bare-chested. As expected from a man who loves sports, his 8-pack was firm and defined. Water trickled down his chest muscles to his V-line. It was so sexy. "Wipe your drool," he glanced at me. I swallowed. "I've been on a plane for hours. I'm a little tired. I'm going to get a hotel room and get some rest. I'll come see you tomorrow." I had just opened the door when 2 bodyguards standing outside blocked my way. I spun around, hands on my hips, and demanded, "Louis, what do you think you're doing?" "Oh, so it's not, Louis, honey, anymore?" he asked, sitting lazily on the bed and drying his hair. "In such a hurry to leave? Did that pretty boy come back with you?" I had no idea what he was talking about. I was exhausted and couldn't be bothered to argue. "Just give me a change of clothes. I need to shower and sleep." Louis tossed me a loose shirt. His clothes were huge on me, the collar drooped into a low neckline. Combined with my wet hair draped over my shoulders, the fabric on my chest got soaked. Whatever, we'd slept together before. I had nothing to be embarrassed about. Louis, on the other hand, turned bright red and quickly pulled the covers over his lower body. I tilted my head. "What are you covering yourself for?" He avoided my gaze and coughed a few times. "It's cold." It was spring. He was in a VIP room with constant temperature control. It wasn't cold at all. "I'm going to take a shower." Louis, who had just showered, rushed back into the bathroom for another one. All I can say is, this is a man of extremes. Either he doesn't shower at all, or he showers like his life depends on it. By the time he came out, I was already asleep. He turned off the lights and slowly lay down beside me. I was jolted awake by how cold his skin was. I opened my eyes and whispered, "Did you take a cold shower?" In the quiet room, he stared at the ceiling, silent. Just as I was about to close my eyes and go back to sleep, Louis grabbed my wrist, flipped over, and pinned me beneath him, his dark eyes filled with possessiveness. He let out a self-deprecating, cold laugh. "Seeing me fall for you, obsessed with you, jealous for you, practically dying for you. You must think I'm pathetic, right? You were the one who came after me first. You just walked away and lived it up overseas, so why am I the one suffering through sleepless nights? I blinked. The moonlight from the window reflected in his wet, red-rimmed eyes. I thought about getting over you, but then I'd see your face and all my resolve would crumble. You like lying to me, don't you? You like my money, right? Why didn't you just keep lying? I would have let you lie to me for a lifetime. A tear slid down Louis's handsome face and landed in the crook of my neck. His voice was almost a plea. Melody, I know about your little tricks, and I know exactly why you approached me in the first place. I don't care. I'm willing to be used by you, to be tricked by you. I can give you anything. But, his eyelashes trembled, and large tears rolled down his cheeks. Can I be the only one by your side? The next second, his scorching lips pressed against my forehead. That night, Louis buried his head in my neck, tears streaming down his face. He cried all night, and he pleaded for a title all night. The next day, his eyes were swollen like a sad frog meme. I don't know if his crying made me sick, but my stomach churned, and I rushed to the bathroom to throw up. Worried, Louis insisted on taking me to get checked out. And that checkup? Well, that's when my world turned upside down. The doctor smiled warmly. Congratulations, you're 2 months pregnant. Beside me, Louis did the math in his head and became ecstatic, so excited he didn't know what to do. He grabbed the doctor's hand. This hospital belongs to my family's company. For discovering my wife's pregnancy, you're getting promoted to hospital director tomorrow. The doctor and Louis were thrilled. I was the only one standing there, completely stunned and freaking out. That one time with Louis. I was so busy with my plans to go abroad that I forgot to take the pill. I couldn't hold it in anymore and burst into tears. I'm only 22. I don't want to have a baby. When Kathy arrived, she overheard the news about my pregnancy and hugged me excitedly. My dearest bestie, I'm going to be an aunt. I can finally spoil a kid rotten. She was so focused on the idea of having a baby to play with, completely forgetting that she wasn't the one who would have to go through the pain of childbirth. Louis and Kathy each supported one of my arms as we walked out. Still worried I might fall, Louis just scooped me up into his arms. After we got back to the family mansion, Louis's parents found out I was pregnant and started treating me like a queen. Because of this, Louis even took over the family business, becoming the head of the household. While I sulked, the entire family was in a frenzy, busy planning the wedding and buying a mountain of clothes for the baby, from newborn up to 10 years old. That night, Louis handed me a contract. Melody, after your family went bankrupt and your parents passed away, I was worried you'd feel insecure. I talked it over with my parents, and we've decided to transfer 50% of the G Corporation's shares to you. You just need to sign here. My gloomy expression vanished, and my eyes widened. 50% of the G Corporation's shares? That had to be worth billions. I'm not a very ambitious person, my mind is mostly filled with thoughts of money. I took the pen and quickly signed my name. Louis then handed me a key. This is the key to your old family home. I figured you must miss it, so I bought it at an auction. If you don't want to live here after we get married, we can move into your house. That house held all my warm, wonderful memories with my parents. It had been auctioned off once before. At the time, I sold all my luxury goods trying to buy it back, but the price was far too high. The money I scraped together was just a drop in the bucket. I never dared to dream that I'd ever have the chance to buy it back. In that moment, looking at Louis, I was genuinely moved, more moved than when he gave me the shares. I threw my arms around him and kissed him on the lips. Honey, you're too good to me. I love you so much. Louis blushed at my praise. This is nothing. He took my hand and led me to the walk-in closet. Whoa, I gasped, my eyes sparkling. Rows upon rows of luxury goods, handbags, necklaces, haute couture dresses, all from my favorite brands. Louis said, Kathy knew what you used to like. She made a list, and I went out and bought everything myself, piece by piece. He handed me a black card. No limit. From now on, just swipe for whatever you want. I cupped my face in my hands, looking at him with adoration. Honey, you are so incredibly handsome. Right, and about your studies, Louis said, his tone serious and sincere. Don't worry, I won't use your pregnancy as an excuse to keep you locked by my side. I respect your pursuit of what you love. I suddenly felt a little guilty. The truth was, it didn't matter where I studied. The only reason I wanted to go abroad was because you could earn more money working part-time, and it would look good on my resume when I came back. My confidence wavered, and my voice got quieter. Let's talk about that later. Louis nodded. Okay. I'll respect whatever you want to do. Just as long as you don't contact that pretty boy again. Also, I sold all the race cars in the garage and threw out all my extreme sports gear. From now on, I'm going to manage the company properly and come home to take care of you. I'll be a good husband and a good father. I paused. What pretty boy? It wasn't until the wedding that I ran into Leo. I truly didn't expect the wedding to be so incredibly grand. Every socialite and big name in the city was there. Louis's mother held my hand and said, Melody, your parents aren't here, and there's not much your father-in-law and I can do, except to love you twice as much. We'll make sure you never feel wronged, not at the wedding, and not ever in your life. It was so nice. In that moment, I felt like I had a mom and dad again. Don't cry, child, Louis's mother said, gently dabbing my tears with a tissue. Kathy gave me a gift box. Inside was a ruby necklace. Melody, I always used to tell you that friends are the family you choose. Now you're my sister-in-law, so we're real family. We can be together forever. I had this necklace specially commissioned overseas. It's not about love, it's about friendship. It represents being best friends for life, never abandoning each other. Let me put it on for you. Louis's mother pushed her aside. It's your sister-in-law's wedding, what are you doing being all dramatic? Of course she has to wear the Smith's heirloom necklace that I'm giving her. I smiled. I'll wear both. I can handle it. I was just being polite, but they actually made me wear 2 necklaces. Louis's parents acted as my own and walked me down the aisle. I was getting emotional during the officiant's speech about love, but then I glanced at Kathy in the audience and almost burst out laughing. She was ridiculously holding up a selfie stick and mouthing to me, "Go slow when you exchange rings, I haven't gotten the shot yet." As I was about to look away, I spotted a familiar figure in the crowd. Leo was sitting in the audience, dressed in a sharp suit, looking at me gently. Louis noticed me looking at Leo, and his face instantly darkened. He shot a glare at Leo that could have killed. Louis leaned in and whispered, "It's our wedding day. Are you still thinking about that guy? Can you not embarrass me like this?" I didn't understand why Louis had such hostility towards Leo. It wasn't until we were making our toasts that I found out. Leo was the only son of the tech tycoon family of the city. He knew Louis and all of Louis's friends. When Leo posted that photo of us on his social media, the caption was, "Afraid that you know, and afraid that you don't." The cryptic caption made Louis think that we were together. During the toasts, Louis was on a warpath. He wrapped his arm around my waist and deliberately went to Leo's table, his words laced with venom. "Leo, I don't recall inviting you." Leo stood up, a handsome brow slightly raised. "I'm here for Melody's wedding, not yours." With that, he pulled a very thick red envelope from his inner suit pocket and handed it to me. Inside the envelope was also a very expensive bracelet. Back when we were working abroad, we passed by a luxury boutique, and I had pointed at that bracelet and said, "That's so beautiful." I couldn't believe he had bought it. I tried to give the envelope back. "This is too valuable. I can't accept it." "Keep it. The diamonds on the bracelet are crescent-shaped, just like your eyes when you smile. It suits you. It sparkles. If you don't take it, I'm not eating." He rubbed his back. "I just sat through a long flight. You don't want me to eat unhappy, do you?" Seeing his point, I stopped refusing and accepted the gift. I'm not stupid. From his post and the way he took care of me and fed me, I knew he probably liked me. I said, "I'm sorry that you gave your heart to the wrong person." He let out a low laugh. His well-defined hand picked up a wine glass, his voice elegant and polite. "That's just life. Fate is often ill-timed. Just meeting was a blessing. It was an honor to know you, but that's where it stops. I wish you a happy marriage." I smiled back. "I hope you find your person soon, too." Louis's mother, worried I was getting tired, helped me go rest. After the banquet ended that night, Louis was drying my hair when I explained everything about me and Leo. Louis was secretly thrilled to hear it. He's a very easy person to please. Even if I'm lying, as long as I say it, he'll believe me unconditionally. He gently pulled me into his arms. "I'm sorry. I misunderstood you. But, that kid definitely likes you. I can tell." As Louis spoke, a shadow of melancholy flickered in his eyes, and his tone became tinged with insecurity. "Honey, to be honest, that guy. He's a good person. If you hadn't been pregnant with my child, would you still have chosen me?" I didn't answer him. Instead, I wrote a letter to be sent 7 years in the future. The letter said, "Would have. I would have chosen you." Signed, Melody. I would choose Louis. I like someone who loves me openly and brazenly, someone who, no matter how much I mess up, will always find a way to come back to me. Like when I went abroad, he said he wouldn't contact me, but he used a burner account to find me 1,000 times over. Someone like me isn't suited for a man whose love is quiet, restrained, and cautious. 7 years later. Louis went from being an extreme sports fanatic in his social circle to a completely whipped husband. That guy who runs the Z Corporation? He's a CEO at the office during the day, but the second he gets home, he's a nanny. He takes care of the kids and cooks for his wife. If you want to ask him out for a drink, he won't go, even if his wife says it's okay. He's completely wrapped around his wife's finger, terrified she'll leave him. I looked over at Louis, who was wearing an apron and bustling around in the open-plan kitchen. It's not like we don't have a nanny. You get up early to cook, and you cook again as soon as you get home from work. People are saying I'm abusing you. He turned and smiled foolishly. I feel better when I cook for you and the kids myself. How could a nanny know how to take care of you too as well as I do? Don't listen to what other people say. They're just jealous of me. A knock sounded at the door. "Hello, is Louis home?" "You have a letter." Louis untied his apron, looking confused, and went to the door. Who sends letters these days? Everything is email. He opened the envelope and burst into tears when he read the contents. He wiped his eyes and ran over to hug me. "Honey, this is the best gift I've ever received in my life." The evening sun was just right. After dinner, he held my hand as we strolled along a green path. He was often insecure, always asking if I would love him forever. Today, I wanted to ask him. I turned to face him, my eyes curving into a smile as I asked sweetly, "Honey, will you love me forever?" He stopped walking and looked into my eyes, his gaze earnest and intense. "Now that I've given you my heart, it's yours for life."